Well, guys, this is the third part and the last part of the presentation regarding the concepts that we have been studying so far. Well, we start with the definition of hatch. Hatch means to produce young set of eggs to come forth from the egg, set of the young of birds, fishes, or different kind of fishes. And of course, we have insects. A hatch means, what hatch tries to say by this meaning is the action of coming out of the egg. Okay, for example, in the case of little chickens, as we can see in here. Okay, so hatch is this action of coming out, coming forth from the egg. Okay, now we continue with omnivore. We have that omnivores are any animal that includes both plant and animal matter in their normal diet. So basically, an omnivore animal is an animal that can eat meat or any plant. Okay, for example, in here we have a raccoon, a hedgehog, humans, of course, pigs, and of course bears, because all of these animals can eat meat or plants. Okay, we have a carnivore. A carnivore is an animal or plant that requires a staple diet consisting mainly or exclusively of animal tissue through predation or scavenging. For example, in here we have a lion, a wolf, a crocodile, and an eagle. All of them have a carnivorous diet, so it means that they only eat other animals. Okay, they do not eat like grass or plants. Okay, they just eat meat. Okay, in the case of herbivores, herbivores is any animal that consumes herbaceous vegetation. For example, this koala that is eating eucalyptus leaves. Okay, for example, in the case of these animals, we can find koalas, sheep, and of course cows. Okay, that they only eat trees and grass. Okay, they do not consume any kind of animal matter. Okay, now we have a producer. A producer is an autotrophic organism capable of producing complex organic compounds from simple inorganic molecules through the process of photosynthesis. Guys, in other words, a producer is an autotrophic organism. So it means that a producer can produce its own food. This basically applies to plants, because remember that plants can produce their food by photosynthesis. They do not need of something else. Okay, now in the case of a consumer, it says that a consumer is an organism that generally obtains food by feeding on other organisms or organic matter due to lack of the ability to manufacture own food from inorganic sources. So in other words, guys, a consumer is a heterotroph. Well, why? Because consumers cannot produce their own food. For example, we as humans, we are consumers. Because we as humans, we cannot produce our own food. For example, if we need to eat, okay, if we want to obtain nutrients, we need, for example, eat fruits, vegetables. And if we want to eat meat, okay, we eat fish, pork, and chicken, and beef, of course, because we cannot produce, for example, we as humans, we cannot produce vegetables by our own or meat. Okay, so we need to affect other species for us to obtain food. Okay, and this is as you can see in here in this photo. And we're basically consumers because this concept that we cannot produce our own source of food. Okay, we need to eat from something else. Okay, now we have a decomposer. A decomposer is an organism whose ecological function involves the recycling of nutrients by performing the natural process of decomposition as it feeds on decaying organisms. Okay, so as the word suggests, these organisms are in charge of decomposing basically worms, mushrooms, insects, of course, such as a fly, and of course bacteria. Okay, and we can find so many other examples of this kind of animals. Okay, a vertebrate. Vertebrate is any animal with a spinal cord surrounded by cartilage or bone. The word comes from the vertebrae, the bones that make up the spine. Animals that are not vertebrates are called invertebrates. Vertebrates include birds, fish, amphibians, reptiles, and of course, vertebrates include mammals. Okay guys, so it is important to say that in the case of vertebrates, vertebrates are divided into 5 main groups. Okay, in the case of amphibians, birds, fish, mammals, and of course reptiles. Okay, what they all have in common is that they all have bones. Okay, they all are vertebrates. Okay. For example, we start with mammals. Mammals are basically characterized by the presence of mammary glands. Okay, in the case of female. Okay, they have a neocortex, which is a part of the brain. Mammals can have 4 overhead and 3 middle ear bones. Okay, so these are basically mammals, for example, cats, birds, wolves, lions, dogs. Okay, so many examples about that. We have birds. Birds are a group of warm-blooded vertebrates constituting the class Aves, characterized by feathers, toothless, picked jaws, the laying of hard-shelled eggs, a high metabolic rate, a 4-chamber heart, and a strong yet light-weight skeleton. You know that birds most of them are very light. Okay, they lay hard-shelled eggs, eggs that are really hard. Sometimes they have a high metabolic rate, and the heart of birds is divided into 4 chambers. Now we have fish. Fish, there are around 34,000 species of vertebrate animals found in the fresh and salt waters of the world. So it means that there are approximately 34,000 of fish. Living species range from the primitive jawless lampreys and hagfishes through the cartilaginous sharks, skates, and rays to the abundant and diverse bunny fishes. Okay. Now if we go to reptiles. Reptiles are tetrapod animals in the class Reptilia, comprising today's turtles, crocodilians, snakes, amphibians, lizards, totara, and their extinct relatives. The study of these reptile orders, historically combined with that of modern amphibians, is called herpetology. So the science that is in charge of dealing with reptiles is called herpetology. And as you know guys, in the case of reptiles we can find turtles, totara, of course, crocodiles, and certain kind of lizards, and of course snakes. Okay, now the last category is amphibians. Amphibians are small vertebrates that need water or a moist environment to survive. The species in this group include frogs, toads, salamanders, and newts. All can breathe and absorb water through their very thin skin. Amphibians also have special skin glands that produce useful proteins. So in the case of amphibians, guys, most of them they live in water or in a moist environment to live or to have a life. Okay, in the case of amphibians, we can find frogs, salamanders, toads, newts, and this kind of worms that is called caecilian. All of these types of amphibians have a really thin skin, and they also have a special gland that is able to produce proteins. Okay, now if we go to invertebrates, guys, it is important to say that invertebrates are animals without a backbone or bony skeleton. So guys, it means that invertebrates do not have bones. Okay, so that's why they are called like this. Okay, they range in size from microscopic mites and almost invisible flies to giant squid with soccer ball sized eyes. Okay, this is by far, guys, and this is quite important, this is by far the largest group in the animal kingdom. 90% of all animals in the world are invertebrates. So it is important that you know that there are more invertebrates than vertebrates in the world, guys. There are thousands, millions of invertebrates in our world, in nature. Okay. Now we have predator. A predator is any organism that preys upon their other organisms. Supplement in ecology, predators are those animals that live by preying on other organisms for food. So these are basically the animals that need to prey in order to obtain food. For example, we have the case of this owl eating like a kind of a mammal, I guess. I don't know. Okay. And the last concept is the prey. Prey is a term used to describe organisms that predators kill for food. So in this case, this praying mantis is the predator, and the prey is this little insect that is being eaten by this praying mantis. So guys, well, these words and these concepts, I hope that you could understand them a little bit better. Okay, because these terms are quite important in biology and in terms of understanding nature just as it is. Okay, leave any comment if you like in my channel. Okay, take care.